Welcome to the Frontfellas podcast. If you want to know what's going on with the Ukraine war, but you're not ready to spend 20 hours on Twitter a day, this is the right place for you. But even if you are completely obsessed and know everything, you can still enjoy our hot takes. Frontfellas deliver military-grade analysis, high-level rumors, and blatant propaganda directly to you. The Washington Post has released an interview with Zaluzhny, the big boss of the Ukrainian army. It's rather interesting and illuminating, so I think it's a good idea to take a look. Zaluzhny's rank is general, and he's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine. He has held this position since July 2021. Zaluzhny is known for his open-minded approach to warfare. For example, he abolished an old principle according to which soldiers needed the permission of their superiors before they could open fire. He also got rid of a lot of paperwork. I think we need more people like this, at least as long as it doesn't create loopholes for corruption. But in contrast to many officers of the Ukrainian army, Zaluzhny was never involved in a corruption scandal. That's one of the reasons why he's so popular with the soldiers and with the general population. When the full-scale invasion started in 2022, Zaluzhny had of course a lot to do. In the beginning of the war, the Russians were swiftly advancing, and an attack on Kyiv, both from Irpin and from Chernihiv, seemed very likely. Some officers then suggested to blow up the bridges over the Dnipro River. They were ready to give up the eastern side of Kyiv and to defend the west only. But when they told Zaluzhny about this idea, he was not really happy. He swore that he would do that under no circumstances, and that it would be a betrayal of both the civilians and the military on the eastern bank. Since then, he has led Ukrainian forces against overwhelming odds. So let's move on to the interview. Zaluzhny openly expresses his anger at some Western commentators and politicians. He says that no Western army would ever launch a major offensive without full air superiority. At the same time, Westerners expect Ukraine to launch a big push while the Russians control the skies. We should remember that Ukraine has not received any F-16 fighter jets yet. I want to comment on this. A lot of people seem to believe that Ukraine could do some Gulf War action if they could just get enough planes, like gain complete air superiority, bomb the enemy at will, interdict all their supply lines, destroy the vehicles, while the Russians can't fight back. This idea is pretty ridiculous. When they were fighting Saddam Hussein, the Americans and their allies used over 2,500 planes. The air campaign, which initially focused on the suppression of enemy air defenses and then shifted towards interdiction and command centers, lasted for a month. The Americans had the best trained and equipped air force in the world, and it took them thousands of planes and lots of time to defeat the air defenses of a badly trained, unmotivated enemy in the open desert. So I don't think that the American planes will be able to create total dominance against Russia, which has one of the most effective, maybe the most effective air defense network in the world. But F-16s are still extremely important for Ukraine. The MiG-29s are running low, and the Ukrainians need something to counter Russian helicopters and ground attack planes. The more advanced Russian helicopter gunships outrange the Ukrainian short-range air defense and fly too low to be reliably destroyed by longer-range air defense. So F-16s would be very, very good for dealing with this kind of threat. Remember the pictures of destroyed Bradleys and Leopards? Many of them were killed by helicopters at long range. Back to the interview. Zaluzhny is pissed off that Western officials and analysts complain about the slow pace of the advance. I quote, "This is not a show. It's not a show the whole world is watching and betting on or anything. Every day, every meter is given by blood." According to Zaluzhny, a large-scale attack on the Russians is not feasible with the current levels of equipment and ammunition. Still, his troops are gaining ground every day. But also, people are dying every day because they are being attacked by Russia from the air. On the current battlefield, Zaluzhny argues, a leopard is not a leopard but a target. Zaluzhny also talked about artillery ammunition. The current supplies are barely enough, but he maintains direct contact to Mark Milley, the United States chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. From the interview, it becomes clear that the main threat to Ukrainian forces right now comes from the air. So what is needed are the F-16s. Either the Europeans send much more tanks and hope the Ukrainians are ready to sacrifice thousands of soldiers in some kind of wave attack, or they must accept that large-scale offensive operations can only resume when the fighter jets arrive. Just a few won't cut it. Against fortified Ukrainian positions held by infantry, the Russian helicopters are of course much less effective. Ukraine will hold the line, but if the war is to end, there must be advances. Advances require tanks, and tanks need protection against air attack. It's simple stuff, really. Another thing that became clear today is that Ukrainian long-range attacks on Berdyansk are intensifying. It's an important logistics hub to the south. By conducting deep strikes against Russia in the city, Ukraine can help the front lines indirectly. As of now, Ukraine has destroyed a fuel depot and a command center. This will disorganize the Russian forces and take away their ability to move supplies and tanks to the battlefield. Let's hope for more good news tomorrow. That's it for now. We at Frontfellas will continue to speak about the stuff that's happening here in Ukraine. The news, the victories, the tragedies and the absurdities. If you want to help us bonk the bear, follow our social media channels, donate to the cause and maybe join a volunteering group. Until next time.